Hi, I'm Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Alexis.
And we're going to talk about Zim. Okay, Germs. We start off with an intro movie, and I feel like right away they get to take the opportunity to play with different characters and tone that they can't really play with in the show. The scientists were way more fun and funny than the characters in the show, who are stark and desolate.
Yeah, it was definitely a more jokey kind of humor. Set up, punchline.
The scientists were like, we could take everybody into space, or just the scientists into space.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. And then they just keep moving from joke to joke. It's much more funny. I feel like even though the world is being taken over by aliens in that world, it's just playful, happy.
It feels very sitcom-esque.
Yeah.
Obvious War of the Worlds nod in having the aliens destroyed by germs. Kind of funny to see the humans figure that out and weaponize it instead of it just kind of derp happening like it does in War of the Worlds. And right afterwards, when it's done, Gur immediately, yeah, hooray for Earth, yes, I am on Earth's side. I am going to go with the protagonists that this film has set me up to like.
I know that this is nowhere near the time of this as a thing, but I love the vibe of, it's more like a, America, fuck yeah, and like, right after Gur is just like, I can imagine if that movie had come out more close to that, they would have loved to have, Gur watch a movie similar to that, and then be running around the house.
I think that it's supposed to have that sort of feeling, because Team America is parodying, action movies and the sort of machismo that's very American action movie. They don't get too much into that, single man saving the world sort of thing, but there is a shot of soldiers and flags, and if you make something in America, and, you've got your troops and your flags, it doesn't matter if there's an Earth on the flag or stars and stripes. It's gonna give that very, patriotic, we'll defend justice sort of thing.
Yeah, his immediately going to the side of the propaganda. We were also talking about how Gur takes in so much media, and that by watching all the TVs, it probably just clutters up his brain even more. This is another one of these. Maybe from here on in, even just subconsciously, Gur does not want them to succeed, because he's predisposed to be like, aliens, no! Hooray for Earth!
It'd be pretty funny if just subconsciously he was ruining all of the missions because he liked his tacos too much.
Yeah, he became too attached to nightclubs, tacos, slushies. I have to say it's really funny that the robot takes to food of Earth much better than Zim, who pretty much seems to hate everything about Earth food. Though I'd argue that Zim might be predisposed to hate fast food due to some certain traumatic experiences of his past.
You got a trigger warning that shit for Zim.
He's like, oh god, well, we're gonna get to fast food later in this episode, speaking of.
Yeah, I've actually have a couple other things to say, but we'll get to them.
Okay. Well, alright, so Zim first, of course, dismisses, germs, that's just bullshit. No one cares about germs. He goes downstairs to check and realizes, that could be a thing. But do realize that he's checking in what is the equivalent of a fashion magazine for Irkens.
Oh, no. Worse, it's an infomercial.
No. But think, for Irkens, we've already established that they're germaphobes. They're playing on their fears, just like a fashion magazine would play on your fear of being fat. This infomercial plays on your innate fear of dirt and disgustingness by telling you, I bet it's gross there where you are. Here's some micro goggles. Here's a 5-second free trial. Look how thin you could be. Look how these goggles could...
They play with the idea of advertisers and that kind of subtle mind control a little bit in the show, but that would have been fun in one of the Dib episodes in the future, the ones they didn't get to make, like, to meet up and see how the Irkens are very materialistic, like Americans are. just to see those kind of advertisers hitting Irken weak spots.
Yeah.
No, I can't go back. I can't go back the fanfiction route. I can't. I'm 25, god damn it.
But, anyway. So, just imagining Dib walking through an Irken shopping mall and taking notes on what Irkens like and what they're weak to, how to manipulate them.
You're doing this on purpose?
Yes, I totally am. I'm doing this to make Alexis suffer.
Oh, God.
Yep. He's undercover, wearing, like, little Irken antennas. He's walking around, taking notes. Oh no, he's a different race and he pretends that he's an exchange student from such and such planet.
Oh,
and
God damn it, he pretends he's Fortune because he knows how to cheat. Oh, but he'd be a terrible Fortune. Oh.
No. He has to not have prepared in advance the name of the planet, and then he makes it up. And they go, oh yeah, such and such planet.
They would.
And then later on he finds somebody who looks just like his costume.
Yes.
And they're like, so what town did you grow up in? Meadowlapolis. Oh yeah, my cousin's from there. I'm just trying to ruin your day.
Why do you have to tempt me with things I can never have?
Because imagining it is the next best thing to ever having it ever, because you're never going to have it ever.
Just a quick watch. Obviously, Zim is the protagonist for this particular episode. It's him versus Germs. That's the story here. And a little bit of empathy for Zim there. After he sees all the germs and the trial goes away, he curls up into a ball, orders it, and all but cries. And you know, you look there and you're like, aw, no, it's okay, little Irken soldier. It's okay.
Yeah, this is definitely one where we're supposed to sympathize with Zim. And honestly, the amount of crazy he goes in this episode, you can't really help but feel bad for him. I love that there is a planet called Planet Kalnawia. That's stupid but funny. But I also love that it is a planet that is literally just a giant Death Star of cannons in all different directions throughout the universe that is constantly just shooting tiny meteorites into the planet's atmospheres to send them to people. It is quite efficient shipping, let me tell you.
Chelsea's super jealous of that efficiency.
If I could fire tiny cannons into anywhere I wanted, I would definitely use it for only good.
Alright, I can't find the name of him or any reference to this. I'll have to check again online because I thought I had these saved to my computer. But the germ that Zim sprays, he's got a name and a backstory. He was on vacation with his family in scenic Zim's kitchen. Zim killed him. Just murdered him.
Him and his whole family.
In the glory days of Zim, when it had its own little MIDI website on the Nick website, they did these little trading cards with silly facts and stuff, and things became way more brutal in some areas, especially when mentioning that this tiny little germ had a wife and a child.
Didn't they tell Bloaty's backstory on those cards too?
Yes, they did.
That's really disturbing, but we're not at Bloaty yet, but that's up, man.
Alright, this is also the first episode that makes mention of Zim's internal organs. Or organ. He's got one big, long, continuous thing called a squeedly spooch. And, well, in the movie he saw germs explode the other aliens' bodies, so he's a little worried about his own. Just learning bit by bit a little bit more about Irkens. I mean, the pack stuff we know actually from other episodes, so you shouldn't know that yet. But Squidly Spooch.
I'd argue that because we had the evidence in Bestest Friend that he was working on his pack, and we also got to see when he hugged onto Miss Bitters, we saw him being born, and we kind of saw a little lifeless lump, and then it attached a pack, and then it said welcome to life. So I'm not saying that they made it explicit, but they certainly have made it a thing.
Yeah, I'd say that the Keef stuff, that could just be maintenance on something like spider legs. So that doesn't count really as proof, but I'd say that, yes, seeing him be born and that the pack gets attached to him before he wakes up, yeah, I'd agree that that's pretty important.
Okay, so Zim, first of all, is under the delusion that Red and Purple give any shits about him reporting in. He's like, oh, they'll be worried about me. It's been a while since I reported in. Woo! Ooh, has wishful thinking. But the other thing is that Zim's crazy breakdown of, I'll destroy you, and you, and you! The transmission ends and we cut to Red and Purple. They're terrified, actually. Because, as we have already talked about, Zim saying, I'll destroy you, is actually pretty scary to them.
And also, Zim is surrounded by enemies that have rattled even Zim's pride. What the hell is on this planet?
They are not sure, and they don't want to find out. So, Zim walks into McMeaties, because Gur ran into McMeaties and he had to go after him. But, wow, if there was any scene that better articulated how desolate this world is, was to show every single thing that is normal and human and pretty much stuff that should be comforting because it's mundane. It's just gross and terrifying. The way that the mom kisses the baby and just spit dribbles down, seeing inside people's mouths as they chew. You just can't be more disconnected from any sort of comfort that you would normally get from a normal, mundane place like sitting in a fast food restaurant, having a baby there, whatever. I mean, I'm not saying babies aren't full of germs, but it sure is an interesting way to portray one.
I don't know, I mean, maybe I spent too much time with this show as a kid, but I gotta say, I like fast food restaurants, but they always seem pretty grody to me. They don't wipe down that often, and when I look at a baby, I do not see a clean being.
I don't see babies as clean all the time, but generally, babies are more powder fresh. I mean, like, people talk about babies being, like soft and powdery and stuff. I mean, you think about baby diapers, obviously, but just as much as I think about baby diapers, I think about, like, baby wipes and, like, baby soap.
And I can respect that that's your perspective, but when I think of babies, I think of them as being covered in, like, drool, and when you pick them up, they puke on you. I don't see them as clean things. And I'm not saying that they can't necessarily be clean. I just, when I think of the imago of baby in my head, it's covered in drool.
I get where you're coming from, and I'm not saying that babies are actually all pristine, clean things. But generally a baby is a much more wholesome image, obviously. I know that the end of the space meat story is meant to just, you know, be like, oh, we don't have NASA space meat, so we just use napkins. But since we were noting that Irken stuff is very clean and pristine, we are again associating space with being germ-free, having nothing that's gross. I know that it doesn't pan out to be actually space meat, it's napkins, but I thought it was interesting to have that since we had talked about it before.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's continuing the idea of anything terrestrial is filthy. You've got, like, dirt and the ether, you know? Those are your two things going on.
And then apparently babies covered in germs.
Filthy babies. Also, later on, there's a callback to this episode. This episode ends with Zim, you know, covered head to toe in meat to keep himself clean. Later on, Red and Purple mention this, and they say, remember the time he called us just covered in meat? Then the meat fused to his skin. Like, that meat does not go over well with Zim. There's a reason he does not continue to wear meat. It doesn't end well for him.
So, In the end, we know that Zim spent a long time peeling, probably not able to decay, but definitely gross meat off of his skin. Can't have a more appropriate ending than that, I guess. Alright, that's all for this week. Alexis and I do stuff other places. If you want to find her, Google Alexis Royce. If you want to find me, Google Chibi Silverwings. I don't really feel like paying for an account on SoundCloud, so the next set of episodes is probably going to go on Alexis's SoundCloud, and then I might make another one. Either way, I'll put them in a playlist for you guys. Take care.